Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our regular CALPADS Q A. You are also welcome to ask post redesign questions. I'll have a few announcements before we start taking your questions. We did have a release go in on Tuesday, and you can see what was fixed. Let me share the screen so we can get it together.
Yes.
So in CALPADS, and I think all of you know this by now, it's in the footer. We did change the title. I think this was a Paula Mishima request because we added some fixed issues. So now we changed the title of it. It's active and fixed known issues. And so, is it not updated yet, Kyron?
You probably have to refresh your screen. It's caching the old one.
Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you. So the date 5/24 is up there now. I didn't have all of those that I shared on Monday, unfortunately, and we just sent one back that was in a fix available status. The GER5 on Sella is still triggering. So fix implemented, and next release is scheduled for next Tuesday. And when I checked this morning, we did still have some jobs that were stuck in the queue. Oh, before I get to that, on the homepage, you'll notice this. We did have a nightly job failure last night impacting ODS reports in extracts. So after some time this morning, they just took those links away. So extracts is not on the left-hand navigation, and ODS reports are no longer listed. And so that includes things like foster youth is not in there as well. And let's check on any stuck jobs. I know some of the larger LEAs were feeling that. Yep. Okay. So we do still have some stuck jobs from even last week. They're still out there almost a full week now. Not a ton, about 32 jobs in the posting queue right now. I believe there were some in validating queue as well. So let's check that before we jump into questions. So we did ask this morning the developer, and he was still researching this. So same thing, about a little under 30 jobs, some even from last week. So apologize for those of you stuck with that. I believe that's all I had. I did see that they changed the error report. Instead of a CSV export, now the label says what it's supposed to, submission extracts, I don't know what to say, submission error extract. That's on the view submission status screen. Trying to get there in our test environment, but I don't have any jobs. Okay, Alex, or actually before we jump over, Alex, Martha or Paula, do you have any announcements to make?
I do not. No, I don't. Sorry.
All right, take it away, Alex.
All right, folks. Maybe Angela, you covered everything, but just in case this is anybody's first time out there, the way that this works is that we ask that you please write down your question in the chat box and that you number it Q1, Q2, Q3, etc. What we try to do is we try to go down the list and answer all question ones first, and then as time allows, we circle back and answer question twos and above. And this way we at least get to answer everyone's question one first. And we ask also that if your question today requires a lot of in-depth analysis specific to one student or corner case, this may not be the venue for it, and we may ask you to submit a ticket instead. And in that same vein, if you already have an open ticket that you're working with an agent on, then we ask that you please just continue working on that ticket, because a lot of the times tickets have a lot more information. We don't want to muddy the waters. And with that, we're going to start off with Danielle. Says, can we start posting discipline files? Yes, you are welcome to start submitting. We do
nothing prohibiting it, but we do have bugs.
Yeah, a couple of known issues. And also you'll notice that course and incident aren't listed in OM just yet. They're still figuring that out.
So if you are having issues, you can just come to the known issues, active and fixed issues list and just see if that's one of the known issues that we're dealing with at the moment. But theoretically, yes, you can start submitting any end of year files. Fabiola, question 1. On May 17th, the SCNR 27 error was reinstated on the known issues list. The description on it states multiple primary enrollments when short-term and primary overlap. For my LEA, the error is triggering for students who have teacher, grade, or program, like independent study, change within the school. In Aries, it's code 440. Will the correction also include this trigger reason? And I think those are.
Yeah, go ahead, Alex. I was going to ask you because you're the Aries expert. What does that look like? Is that an E150 in CalPADS?
Exactly.
Slightly different scenario. So it might be worth, the developer was just asking me about this about a half an hour ago, Fabiola. So if you want to send in a ticket and ask for Angela, I'll make sure that she includes that in her analysis.
Is this related to the transactions for one student? You can't have multiple transactions for a student?
Well, it sounds like she's just changing their grade level.
Yeah, but you do that with the E150, and then you have to give the next record of what you're changing it to. Right? You have to have
it's a warning though, right? Or it was a warning in Legacy.
Mm.
So that might be something to check, Fabiola. If there's 2 records for the same student in your file, that's something that the vendors are working on splitting out. And so we are not going to allow that to happen in the future or for now going forward. We just haven't communicated that to everybody just yet, but Aries and the vendors were verbally told that. But if you just have 1 record in the file for that student and with an E150 code, let me know and I will add it to the bug.
Okay. Moving on, Karina. We were told that if the student drops before the testing window, they would not count towards the participation count. Can you provide more information on participation rate, specifically calculation of which students are counted? Does the accountability window start the first day any student in the LEA begins a test, or is it based on the window start date assigned in TOMS? Beyond my scope.
Yeah, this is Paula. Martha, do you know?
Yeah,
you know?
It's in the technical guide. There's somewhere where the definition of participation rate is described, and it's either that guide, technical guide. Well, there's some sort of mapping guide, CalPADS to accountability or something. But I think start with the technical guide and it explains the logic of the participation rate, who gets included and who doesn't.
Right, and I do know that participation rate that you see, I think it's in TOMS, it's kind of delayed, I think, in how it does its calculation. So anyway, yeah, if I would search for that documentation and then submit a question to our accountability folks, our AAU folks, or ADAD. If it has to do with participation rate, to the ADAD, our assessment division.
Okay. Moving on to Asia, question 1. CSIS 0507, what's the ETA on this, please?
Don't have an exact date. Our next release is Tuesday, so that would be the soonest. But honestly, I don't think it's going to be there that quick. It might be the following week.
Doug is responding to Danielle, and then we move on to Jim. Question 1. We are still unable to delete transactions from CalPADS. Any ETA on when that will be fixed? I'm assuming that's SPED and SSRV.
If it's SPED and SSRV, then the target is Tuesday. I did get confirmation from the developer on that he's going to check that in.
Awesome. And Jim, if you weren't talking about SPED or SSRV files, please let us know and we'll get back to you. Lisa, question 1. When will SPED 0538 and SPED 0434 be resolved?
Okay, so SPED 538 was the one that came back and bit us. So that just got sent over. So hopefully they'll turn that around soon since they already fixed it once. 434, same thing. I thought I saw they were really close on that one. Yeah, again, I think Tuesday would be the soonest.
Okay. And Judy also was asking about SPEDO 538.
So Angela, Monday's a holiday, and so it may not be until Wednesday when they would see the release in CalPADS.
I thought the message that you sent out was that they were doing releases on Tuesdays now.
But because Monday was a holiday, they may. Well, if they do it Tuesday night, they may not do it during the day, is what I'm saying. And so it may not be until
Gotcha.
Wednesday.
Okay. The last 2 weeks they've done it at noon, but that message
Yes, they have.
did say at night. So roll your dice, folks.
Safer on Wednesday to check. Don't want to get your hopes up too soon.
Rebecca from Fresno COE, question 1. Any updates on the PEBT? The CDE Nutrition Services Division sent out an email to LEA stating that enrollments, exits, etc. need to be updated in CalPADS. Not sure they are aware of our known issues.
Right. So on PBT, we still do not have an approved plan, but it's getting so close that our nutrition services folks felt they needed to send something out. We will follow up with a flash. I think the main thing to understand is that PBT basically looks throughout the whole year. And so, for example, if folks are concerned that you're going to be exiting students from FRPM, that won't matter because they will have had an open FRPM record sometime during the year. So I think the main thing is it's just a reminder that to the extent that data are up to date, that's a great thing. We know that after the rollover, that maybe there's things that need to be updated since then, but there will be time, hopefully, when the system gets more stable, that you'll still have time to do any updates for PBT. And the main thing really is, like was stated in that message from Nutrition Services, that any transfers in, especially if kids are transferring into a CEP school, those are good ones to get in, and because if they weren't eligible before, they would now be eligible. Of course, the benefits will be fairly small because it will be a very short period of time. The other thing is just the student addresses. So yeah, so don't worry about it quite yet. We understand there's all the issues in CalPADS. When that submission is going to be required, it won't be until probably the latter part of June. So it's, there's still a little bit of time. But we'll definitely provide you a flash in the next week or two.
Awesome. Moving on to Chris from Ripon Unified, question 1. Can we have the known error 6051 escalated to high priority? I won't be able to submit any discipline data without access to the incident data link, and this will delay our end of year.
Definitely coming soon, even though it says a medium. We wanted to roll it out with end of year. I'm not sure if it's going to make it in this pending release, but my question to you would be, are you able to do a batch upload for your incidents? That's one way around that.
Carol Mann, question 1. What replaces the 8.1 ODS report? I use this to keep my SIS in sync with CalPADS and generally make sure that CalPADS accurately reflects our data. I need this for all my students, not just as of census day.
Nothing replaces it, right?
Right. I think this is probably, Carol comes to a lot of these, so she probably heard me say eventually. One of the reasons we don't prioritize working on ODS reports is that eventually they are going to get retired. So Paula, this goes back to snapshot redesign, where originally the thought was that we weren't going to need the ODS reports anymore. And so they kind of got deprioritized. I don't think it's happening anytime soon. Do you have a sense of that? It's not, they're not going away, right?
No, not anytime soon.
And then I forget why they said they didn't need replacements, that they were going to do something with the snapshots that they were running all the time. So it wasn't like it would be a total loss where you couldn't ever get that data. They were just going to do it differently.
Or extracts, maybe? Okay, moving on. Karen, question 1. Is there an ETA on when we will be able to see all of our districts in our SELPA again? And all of the excess districts removed?
So that's not ringing a bell for me. Gary, did you log something about that?
There's some on the 16.7, 16.8 reports, if that's what she's talking about. Where there's some SELPA.
Wow, here we
overlap.
go.
Yeah.
5945. So you have some extra LEAs that you get to support.
But they want to see all of their districts for their SELPA. So you need to let us know what reports, Karen, and if there's a snapshot versus the monitoring reports.
We'll circle back on that one. Monica from Santa Clara COE, question 1. Where does the testing grade in TOMS come from? I keep getting requests to change the testing grade in CALPADS, but I only know of the enrollment grade, which is correct and matches what comes out of the SIS. But somehow the testing grade in TOMS is off by a grade, up or down.
Any idea, Paula?
No, I don't know on that one. I'll try to find out while we're on this call. But yes, otherwise the grade comes from CALPADS. We don't give them a testing grade. So
Right, and it should come from the SCNR file.
Yeah.
Okay. Soraya, question 1. How are NPS students reported in the STAS file? Are NPS students attend an NPS school outside of our district?
They're
I believe those are
not.
exemptions.
Yeah, if you were to show the Word document of the CALPADS file specifications, there's a table in Chapter 2 which shows expected, what schools types are expected, what grade types are expected for the different submissions. And then that's how you know if you have to report them in any one of those submissions. We definitely need the incident if there's any restraints or seclusions. That's what we would expect in EOI 3, but not necessarily the STAS.
And to clarify, the STAS record for the student would be reported. It's just the exemption indicator would be Y and nothing else.
I don't know for sure because I think they're not expected. I don't know if we have an N in there.
They should still submit the record, but has an exemption on it.
Okay.
It's I put the link at the bottom.
So where's MPS schools on this?
Oh, keeps going.
So if you go to EOI 3,
Permitted, but not required.
yeah. So if you don't send it up, I would expect you not to get an error since it's permitted. But if you send it up, you can just say exempt.
Question 1 from Lou. Just double checking that with problem number 6025 and 6098 are fixed, we should be able to upload the SPRG file.
Let's pull those up so we can look at those with you. So it looks like 6098 went in last night or yesterday.
6025. I think it's the data conversion mess that we have with
this
the
one was
education
fixed too.
service
So
year.
somebody responded, it was fixed implemented. So both of those got fixed. So if you're still having a problem, let us know.
There's still the education service year.
Right.
Yeah, that's a different one.
But they want to know if they can upload the SPRG. And while those other two got fixed for the SPRG, there's another big one that until that gets fixed, we don't want you to upload your SPRG because it causes duplication. And that's 6105 right there.
Larnie from Oxnard, question 1. Our assessment director is getting notification from CDE regarding ELA records for our students. He is getting notified to test students who were reclassified in the past because their ELAs have been updated in the CALPADS file as EL. I think this is because of the CELA issue, but does the assessment office know about this issue? Is my assumption correct, though?
There was the sequence order, which is 6127, Angela, that caused us to report an older CELA than what we should have done.
Should be resolved, right? It hasn't been updated yet, but we asked about it this morning and they said it was fixed.
Right, but we don't know how long it takes for then TOMS to get updated.
It should be to Thursday, right? Whatever that schedule is. So whatever came is updated Monday shows up in TOMS on Thursday, and the fix that went over this weekend was supposed to have resolved those CELA issues.
So Larnie, check again tomorrow to see if it got straightened out. And so if you go in and look at that student and you look at their CELA record, look at the last column on the right. It's the effective date, and the most recent effective date is what we should be sending to TOMS. And if you're still not seeing that, then we have to verify exactly when will TOMS get updated.
And I skipped Monica, but that's a question 2. So Monica, I've jotted you down. We'll circle back. Moving on to Brian from Cyrus. Any updates on SPET data from CalPADS being sent to TOMS? CASP known issues website last update was from May 9th, 2022.
So we came across some tickets that said the student with disability flag indicator wasn't being shown in TOMS. And so I don't know, Paula, if you're aware if that particular issue got straightened out. We didn't log it as a defect. We just knew some attributes weren't making its way to TOMS.
Is my understanding that all of those issues should be resolved.
Okay.
There were some outstanding issues that impacted just a very, very small number of students where we're actually holding out those student records, but they all relate to EL.
So the other flip side of the coin there, Brian, there are some SPED IVRs that are preventing people from getting the attribute set correctly. So check again tomorrow to see if those students are now showing as students with disability.
Right, Rebecca from Lancaster, question 1. Any status on the link of existing data discrepancies as to when we will see it? I thought we were going to have access to it before the end of your snapshot submissions window opened.
Right, so it's probably the data discrepancies won't come in until the fall. Basically, right now, the focus is on getting the data, the IVRs that became data discrepancies, which then become a CVR when the submission window opens. And since we're in the middle of the submission window, the focus is getting those in as CVRs.
So Paula, they're still discussing how
to do that. So there's some possibility that in order to make them CVRs, they have to display them as data discrepancies, but we don't know that for sure, right, Martha? And
correct.
Should that be the case, then CSIS folks will be scrambling to provide some information and training about that, since you all have not seen any screens on data discrepancies.
Our druthers would be not to introduce brand new functionality on top of the EOI, but we may not have a choice if we have to generate certification validations on some of those data discrepancies. So just stay tuned, Rebecca.
Moving on to Elizabeth, question 1, PEBT attendance, latest memo from Nutrition Services Division. Any update? And Paula,
Oh, didn't we just talk about that?
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so again, the update simply is that we're getting closer to getting an approved plan from the U.S. Department of Ag that we'll send out a flash in the next week or two. Bottom line is we're not going to probably be requesting data from you all until the later part of June at this point. So basically, in terms of keeping data up to date, is really just what you would be doing anyway for end of year. We fully recognize the current problems that are on the system, but hopefully the system will become stable by the time we need to pull PEBT data.
Mary Masters is responding to Fabiola. Claudia, question 1. Is there an ETA on known issue 6008? We have a student that has an incorrect EO status we can't delete, and this is preventing the student from being able to test.
Yeah, this is a vexing one. It has come back a few times, and including right now, it says fix available, but the next time we update this list, it'll say sent to developer. It's still not quite fixed. So sent it back. I put it like at the top of the list because it's like, we've been waiting for this one for a really long time.
But I would also say too that a lot of people were wanting to make adjustments when it was really the sort sequence problem that we had on the effective date.
I actually worked on Claudia's ticket a little bit ago, and so she has just a generic EO record that's in alignment with her school enrollment record, and so should be able to delete. I futzed around with the enrollment dates thinking, I was working with the tester on it, and it's still triggering just for no reason. So
All right.
so it wasn't a sort problem, Martha, is what I'm trying to say for Claudia's instance anyway.
Okay.
Melissa, question 1, known issue 6038. Has medium priority, but when records get rejected, we can't upload the other discipline files, SIRS and SOF. Can this be changed to high? I'm trying to have sites review all of their issues before they leave for the summer break.
I would say, Melissa, that we're aware at the time it came in, our priority was getting, the TOMS data and just student profile data fixed. And so discipline was lower on our list. So at that time, we coded it as medium, but we know what it takes for you guys to be successful with all the different EOY submissions. So we are, even though it says medium, we are ranking them appropriately so that you can be successful with your EOY submissions.
Yeah, we're kind of moving into our next wave of priorities, right? As we get the student information resolved, we'll start working on the end of year bugs that are going to prevent you from getting data in.
Ethan says, hi team. Hi, Ethan. He says, I am fielding several requests to support LEAs with RFEP reclassification rate calculations. Any recommendations for extracts or reports we can pull from CALPADS with reliable CELA data on it? I believe we need more information than what's on report on EOY 3 certification reports 2.16 and 2.17. I would normally default to the CELA ODS extract, but that's still buggy, right? I think it is still.
It's still a little buggy. It's still pulling the wrong one. It's still potentially missing the two fields at the end.
The sequence we aren't getting, the most recent we're not pulling in. And then, I think they could account for the missing columns at the end or the data at the end, but it's not pulling in the most recent.
And those are the only two good RFEP reports we have, right?
Yep. That and the CELA ODS. So sorry, Ethan. And again, we know the RFEP data is important for EOY 3 to be certified. So we want to be sure that the CELA ODS extract works for you because that's one of your tools to be successful.
From Kathy, question 1, will we get the extract option back on the menu?
Yeah, we just brought it down because we were getting so many tickets on it that the nightly process failed. And so I think on the homepage it says it should be back tomorrow. Yes, here we go. We expect the reports and extracts to be back tomorrow. So cross your fingers that goes well.
Fabiola is responding to the first question regarding SCNR 27. She says, I have 19 errors. The changes have been for students in and out of independent study. I had checked and they did not have double enrollment in Aries. But I suspect it's what you were mentioning, Martha, is that in the file itself, the student has two records, one with an exit and one with an entry with the new program. But Fabiola, if you want to submit a ticket with the job ID, we can take a look at the file and confirm that that's the case. Moving on to Yadira from Eastside Union, question 1. In reference to Fabiola's question, I have the same issue. I created a ticket and was suggested to use CALPADS exit 167. But like Fabiola mentioned, I have multiple students that went from regular program to either distance learning or independent study, and we use 440 for any program change.
Same scenario. We think it's the two records for the same student in the same file. I mean, for you guys in your SIS, it looks like one enrollment, but what comes into CALPADS is two separate records, closing out one of their enrollments so you can do a program change and then starting them in that new program.
Sabrina says, hi, question 1. Where is SELA at? Can we import the SELA extract from CALPADS? We just answered, still buggy.
And normally it would be on the extract page under the ODS extracts, but that's been disabled today.
Reynaldo Chavez is giving us a plus, so I'm taking that as a good sign. Ed DeWitt, question 1. Which state course codes will count for leadership military science in the CCI indicator? The 2019 tech guide says 2505, which is retired. Will 9373 and 9374 both be included? I can't find a more recent dashboard technical guide.
I think that's in our EOY 1 PowerPoint, isn't it, Kyron? We have a slide of what
The 9373 and 74 are the most current leadership military service codes. So I'm assuming that's what the dashboard will pick up, but it doesn't say specifically on the dashboard right now.
Right, but in our PowerPoint, do we not say these are the two courses that get you leadership for CCI? It's in our training material.
It does. Yeah, it's on the slide. Let me just bring it up.
I know for sure. I know for sure we have it in the cohort training, and we have a slide on, and I believe it's just one state course code. It should also be in that handbook, the CALPADS
crosswalk. The crosswalk.
And it's in Appendix A of that crosswalk.
I did post that crosswalk in the chat a little bit ago. I was looking for it. 937 what?
9373
and 9374.
Yeah.
Not on the crosswalk.
Appendix A.
Well, it would have come up. But this is the crosswalk between the grad rate and data quest. There's one that's more a different crosswalk. Doesn't look like this.
Okay.
But it's in that.
I think I found it.
Okay.
I'm telling you, it's in our training material.
Yes, Martha, it's there. It's,
I
just waiting for the queue.
Is it data population training though, Kyron?
No, it's in the report and certification.
Okay.
It's on slide 16 later on.
Thank you. You guys put a lot of work into that.
it this one? No.
It looks different.
Keep going. CCI, is CCI on there?
Oh, it's the handbook.
As far as the
That's
variable-
what we're
The
looking
handbook.
for. Handbook. Here it is. I found it. I really purged all of the end of year last year. Did it go?
Not yet. We're still looking at code sets.
It's minute, yeah. There it is. Super tiny, but
And if you go to CCI,
there it is. So it's just that one state course code.
Hmm.
And then all the way at the bottom, there's an appendix that shows you everything that's counting.
I wonder why 9374 isn't included.
It's more recent.
9374 is?
I think
And
so.
this, and this map is, well, this last year's handbook.
Ed, I'm going to put that in the chat for you, for everybody.
All right, moving on to Hope. She says, we have a parent who wants to keep their spouse, now deceased, info in our enrollment and SIS. Thoughts, policy? Couldn't find updated doc on CalPADS Q A for parent guardian, as it doesn't seem to reflect parent guardian education level. Is the father of the student.
That's a local decision, what your district says. Right, Paula? As far as collecting and reporting parent guardians, if one of them is deceased, it's up to the
Yeah,
district whether or not they're going to report that.
Yeah, I mean, I will bring that question up over here, but that's, for now, a good response.
Okay. Maria from Waterford, question 1. I have a student that was accidentally marked as graduated, and now I cannot edit the record to remove the exit date and codes. Do you know when I will be able to correct that or how I can correct it?
Say, Maria, if you could type in the chat what error message you're getting, and we could double check the known issues to make sure we don't have anything outstanding on that.
I'll get to that one. Meanwhile, we're moving on to Vincent, question 1. We are receiving a rejection when attempting to post an E230-100, which the student was enrolled at another LEA after hours. The SSID is currently SCCE as of the moment. What would you suggest we do to resolve this, as I believe this is due to the prevention of re-enrolling grads? Thanks.
Say, Vincent, go to the CSIS website, csis.ficmac.org, and on the homepage, there's the first bubble here, find CalPADS LEA contacts, and then find the district and see if you can get them to delete that record. It might have been an error that they didn't realize that the student had already graduated, and so they don't need to be reporting their enrollment in CalPADS anymore.
Rebecca's responding to Karina. Sabrina, I've jotted down your question 2. We'll circle back. Mary Masters, question 1. Regarding Paula's answer about PEBT collection end of June, this will be after students have exited all of our schools. What will happen in that case? Our end date is June 2nd.
Yeah, we've been talking to your SIS vendors, and all the data will still be in your system. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Okay. Chris is responding to the question 1. He says, I can't do a batch upload with my 6051 issue because the student is in a private school. That's the discipline data.
Right, that was the incident information. So you could do the rest of your district, right? And we just have to wait for the incident to get the link to be added to get that one incident for your private school. Do we even do that for private schools?
Exactly. Are you saying an MPS school? Because you don't report discipline incidents or behavioral incidents for private school students. They have to be enrolled somewhere. And enrollment reported to CalPADS. And we don't do private schools unless you're referring to MPS schools.
Yeah, we do require it for NPS, but not for private school. So 001 is yes, 002 is no.
Okay. Faviola's answering to Mary Masters. Yadira, I've written down your question 2. Karen says, thank you. I'll send in a ticket about my extra or missing LEAs. Carol, I've jotted down your question 2. At the 319 timestamp, Angela posted the crosswalk for accountability link.
Oh, it was, except it was the data quest one. So later on, we'll have the accountability one.
Okay. Rebecca is responding to Carol. Kathy, I have your question 2 at 319. At 320 timestamp, Kyron posted the link to the STAS exemption. And Leanne, question 1 says, I am trying to do a workaround and remove errors related to GER 1, known error on the staff demographics file, but when I search for the seed in the associated file that was loaded, the seed is not in the file. Any thoughts on working around the error?
There's an STEM error defect.
It's triggering an error
on non-teachers.
Oh,
No, there's another STEM, I think. That's not the only one.
There was one about ethnicity, but
Yeah, well, maybe that's what I was thinking of.
she mentions the GER one, so
mhm.
they're not in the file.
Right. That's what, so she's getting a GER 1 on a seed that's not in the file.
I thought, Angela, you wrote one up trying to do a search for STEM. There was something about searching in STEM.
Not that I
Type the word
recall.
search.
Not ringing a bell for me, Martha.
Okay.
So maybe we need a ticket, Leanne,
Really old.
with the job ID and the seed, just to make sure it's not related to that PM. And if it is, we'll link you to that bug.
And maybe you query your local system to make sure that the local ID for the staff member doesn't match any other teachers or staff.
Yeah, she's saying it's not in the seed isn't in the file though, so that would be strange.
Angela's responding to Monica. Mary Masters responding, saying regarding the CELA fix from the 306 timestamp, do we need to re-upload to see the fix, or is the fix dealing with existing data?
Does anybody remember which fix she was talking about?
306.
Sorry, I was doing something else. Probably the sort order was the one that we were talking about, I think. The order of them.
So
Do
you
we
don't
need
need to
to
do
re-upload?
anything. No,
Correct.
you don't need to do anything at all. That CDE is handling that stuff on the back end. So just hang in there. And it sounds like tomorrow might be a better day for you guys with regards to Tom's data.
Jennifer, question 1. What role can be assigned for access to ODS reports, A.1 and other student demographic?
Just the SCNR view. Let me just bring it up. Just the SCNR view roles for whatever file type roles. It should bring up the ODS.
Margarita says, regarding CELA TOMS, does not reflect most effective date for all our kiddos. I'm not sure if that's.
I think it's this one that I think the data that CDE is sending over is better now, but maybe it hasn't all been populated in Tom's based on what Paula was saying that with this Thursday schedule.
Okay.
So check tomorrow.
Stella, question 1, what happened with the extract option? Will we get it back on the menu?
Yes, hopefully tomorrow. It failed last night, so you guys were not getting reliable results this morning, so they just hid it from you. So help avoid frustration, but it sounded like it added some as well. But we did update the homepage, and so if you're new to CalPADS, it's one place to check in the, by the time we figure out what's going on, and it's usually around 10:30 in the morning, between 9 and 10, that we'll get the homepage message updated for you.
Okay. Cindy says question 1, will the extract tab return for the direct certification extract request? I think I might have missed something from last week's meeting.
Yeah,
It's
back
also an
tomorrow.
extract.
Yeah, all the extracts and ODS reports failed last night. So,
All right, at 3:30 timestamp, Paula Mashima wrote, regarding the question about the testing grade. The testing grade is a grade that gets locked in when a student starts testing. If an LEA does a mid-year grade change for a student after a student has started testing, then that testing grade does not change. Therefore, it will be different than the CalPADS grade. This is expected in that scenario.
And Alex, I just put another follow-up because I got more information for ETS, and I added in the chat, but about having to do a stairs request. But I think bottom line, they should probably contact CalTAC so they have the exact scenario and know exactly what to do.
Awesome. Good to know. Okay, Larnie, I've written down your question 2. We'll circle back. Kim from Yellow. Question 1, probably a Tom's question, but I wonder if you have heard from other LEAs experiencing this situation. When uploading an accommodations file to Tom's, we are getting multiple errors where a student with an SSID is not enrolled in a school in our LEA, but the student does have an open enrollment in CalPADS dated back to the beginning of the school year. We have double-checked SSIDs to ensure accuracy and nothing seems out of place. Any thoughts?
That's when I think ETS was holding back on some records and not putting them in the registration, right, Paula? Potentially. They're enrolled in CalPADS just fine, but they're not showing up in Tom's, is the way I read that.
Yeah, although the scenarios are pretty, yeah. But there's not that many. There's only like 221 students.
So maybe check tomorrow to see if it's, and if
Yeah,
not,
for those 221 students, the team is Brandy and ADAD. They're reaching out individually to LEAs.
So I would put in a ticket, Kim, with the SSID so that we could hand it off to those folks so they can double check to see what's going on.
Good idea.
Mary Masters is responding to Fabiola, and Rebecca has a question too. So moving on to Wendy. Question 1, are we ever going to be able to trust anything in CalPADS again?
Do you trust your local system? Yes, you're going to be able to trust CalPADS. We're going to get these defects taken care of, but you know what you should be, do you guys have confidence also in your local data? Because some of the errors, the invalidations that we trigger is because your data is a suspect. So it's not just the trust in CalPADS, but you got to be able to trust your local system, make sure you have accurate data there as well.
Rebecca's responding to Larnie, and we move on to Angela from Clovis. Question 1, does the SENR date-based extract have the correct CELA date statuses? The that is what I've been using to check against the data in my SIS.
I believe she's referring to this SSID extract on the, yeah, it's because it's got the ELAS status and the student with disability status. And I haven't heard anybody complain about that one.
I think once we got the effective date thing working, restored, right? There was a data migration where we made the start date equal the effective date. And once we fixed that, then the SSID extract, I think, became accurate for the flag, whether they're EL or not. And haven't heard since. You're right, Angela.
See, test is nice and zippy this afternoon. think that's a good place to check.
Terry says, hi all, I logged into CalPads and went to student program to add an exit date, and the CalPads terms and conditions popped up. I logged out and logged back in, and it went back to normal. My crazy hump day bug for Wacky Wednesday. Wacky Wednesday's right.
Give a name to every day of the week. Wacky Wednesday. What's Thursday?
It's like the podcast Make Me Smart. Every day they have a different theme, and Thursdays are hollowed out shell of a day, Thursday. Towards the end of the week, you're all worn out.
Rebecca is responding to Ed. Margarita says, can you post that? Terry has posted the handbook at the 3:37 timestamp. Margarita asks, is the cohort training recorded? And yes, it is. It's on our YouTube channel.
I placed that in the chat, Alex.
Oh, you did? Oh, just didn't go far enough. Thanks, Marshall. That cohort playlist is at the 3:40 timestamp. And then again at 3:38, there's the CalPads dashboard handbook. Suzanne, question 1. I'm sorry if this has been addressed. Today, a whole bunch of CCE anomalies showed up suddenly from prior year. We are supposed to ignore those if they are silly ones, like N470 start and exit dates are the same as our district start date from 2020.
I did see a couple tickets in the queue with CCE in the title. I haven't dove into any of those. Alex or Gary, have you taken a look? No.
Oh.
So sorry, Suzanne. We will get to those. For a while, they weren't even displaying. In fact, I believe we still have a known issue that says they don't display. So you're describing something really new to us. Okay.
Terry says, aside from the full tech guide, there's a reference document that may be helpful. And it's a reference guide for the dashboard, and that's at 3:40 timestamp. Ed, I have your question 2 down. Aries, Aria says, any updates as to when we can start uploading SELA TBD records for summer initial LPAC testing? Our language assessment is planning to start testing new students on July 5th. I believe the SELA TBD records can be submitted starting July.
But it's, yeah, I think you have to wait for the new academic year because that's when the rule allows you not to have ownership, right?
Mm-hmm. July and August, right?
Yeah, I think you just looked that up for me the other day, Alex.
Yeah.
I believe that's what you told me.
Hey, Alex, before you go on, Chris from Ripon at 3:41 had a follow. He was clarifying what school, the private school, and it was the MPS. And so, Chris, we have a recording on how to get data from your MPS schools into CalPads. And it's a matter of using the batch templates and keying in their information into those batch templates. And granted, you like doing it in online, but there is a workaround by using the batch templates. And there is a recording on the MPS.
Is this it?
What is it? You have to ask Nate. He was the one that did it. Yes, there you go. And they did a new recording, but this one from last year, not a whole lot is that last year? That's 2 years ago. It hasn't changed a whole lot, but we are trying to get the most recent recording up there. But it's something to check out if you're anxious to get that data into the system. Sorry, Alex.
Totally fine. Okay, so moving on then, Paula Mishima's follow-up on the testing grade in TOMS is at 3:48 timestamp. So, Carol says the question 2 has been answered, so that's awesome. Ethan has a question 2, and I'm bringing you down. Wendy says, yes, I just don't trust putting anything in CalPads. Oh, and that's
Understood, Wendy. And I didn't want to come across as harsh, but I think that's the whole purpose of the validations and the certification validations, is that we want to ensure the integrity of the data. And that's why a lot of records right now, can be rejected because it doesn't look quite right. And the data discrepancies are also supposed to bring light to data that is of suspect as well. And it's a potential, right? Because sometimes, if it was a warning, you look at it and you say, oh yeah, you're right, you caught something good, I need to fix it. Or yeah, it's a warning and my data is okay. And I have one of those scenarios where this is normal for us. So hopefully with our validations and our ability to check the quality of the data, that you can in the future trust the data. Right now, yes, we have a lot of bugs, but we'll get through it. And I think with end of year, you guys will, have to really scrutinize those snapshot reports very carefully, because we let a lot of data in that we normally would have not with your input validation rules. So it will be really important to rely on your local system because you trust that and that is of high quality, so that when you get results from CalPads, that you're going to quickly be able to see that you have extra kids in CalPads, or you don't have enough kids in CalPads on a given report because of what you have in your local system. So really being familiar with your data is going to help you a great deal come EOI. And thank you for that opportunity, Wendy, to follow up, because I didn't want to come across as being really harsh.
So I'm moving down to Rebecca at 354. She says, from CDE-AAU, they say we will be sure to use both the Leadership Military Science State Course Code and the JROTC State Course Code when we next process Leadership Military Science for the CCI for the 2023 dashboard. The CCI will not be reported in the 2022 dashboard due to the flexibility of the 21 Smarter Balance Assessment Administration. So, thanks for that update, Rebecca. And apparently you also answered question 2 for Ed. So maybe we have a new Joshua. And then at the 356, we have Angela posting the link to, I believe, the MPS
Training. Yeah.
training. Vonda, for ELAS for next year, I believe it's just something like the earliest you can add ELAS is 30 days before the start date. We'll have to check.
I think it has to be in the academic year. I don't know. Because these are kids that you're doing pre-enrollment so that you can get testing them early. And so you got to wait for that academic year to start in order for you to do that initial assessment. You can't do that in this academic year. So that's why you wait July and August timeframe.
Question 1 from Derek says, how is the value for the SEAL effective start date field derived?
Way back in 2015.
Once upon a time.
We stored it based on what LEAs did historically in their certification snapshot. And so prior to 2015, when we redesigned the SIMF and pulled out the English language and created its own file, LEAs got to decide what the status was. And every year it would change for some kids. One year they're an EL, next year they're an EL. So what the effective date resembled the data that they certified that year so that's where that effective date came from. And that took us a while to get to that point, right, Angela?
But nowadays,
yeah,
they will always match, right? We automatically infer that the effective start date is the same as the status date. Now that SELA has its own record.
Yes. So it's the historical data that relied on the effective date. And that's typically your older students, because any student that's got their initial ELAS record in 2015, that start date and effective date will always match. It's the historical data that didn't.
We are at 4:01 and we have not gone to our question 2s. Do we keep going? Or
We are back on Friday.
Fabulous
Martha.
Friday.
Oh,
I like the thankful Thursday. So tomorrow we will all be thankful. And then on Friday, it's going to be fabulous because you're heading into a 3-day weekend.
it's true.
Well, yeah, we thought so too, Leanne. Martha vetoed us. She wants to, partly because, I don't know, various reasons, but we are going to be here on Friday afternoon at 3:00.
But that doesn't mean you guys can't leave early and have a great 3-day weekend. We'll be here for those that are still grinding away.
And
See what we can do to help.
We'll record it and we will post it as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Rebecca Morales.
All right.
Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Alex. Thanks, Paula. Thanks, Martha.